Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today we're going to be talking about maps. Now, this is an update video from my last time, and we're going to dive a little bit towards the due diligence, a little bit of earnings and what happened and what I think is going to happen soon. So first off, we're going to discuss some of the highlights here through their presentations, then go towards the estimates that they missed, and as well as their detailed third quarter revenue breakdown. So first off, in terms of financial results, Maps or Weedmaps has actually recorded around $51 million of revenues in quarter 3 2021. That's a 9% year-over-year increase on a reported basis and 46% year-over-year on US only. Now, the monthly active users growth is around 37% year-over-year and 28% year-over-year when adjusted to the current period to exclude the MAUs attributed to the Learn section of Weedmaps.com that were not able to track during the prior period. Now, the average monthly revenues per paying client growth is around 7% year-over-year or 18% just for the US. Average monthly paying client growth of around 2% on reported basis or 24% in the US. Now, quarter 3 gross profits of around $49 million. That's a 96% implied gross margin rate and around 50 basis points of margin expansion versus last year and a slight expansion versus the last quarter. Now, quarter 3 adjusted EBITDA of around $10 million. There's around 20% adjusted EBITDA margin here, excluding stock-based compensations. Now, in terms of the total revenues, we're able to see that the delta for quarter 1 full year 2021 all the way to quarter 3 full year 2021, we're able to see we went around a total revenue of our adjusted EBITDA of going around 9 million, then 9, then 10. So we're still on somewhat of a flat level where we're hitting 9s and 10 millions. Now, the biggest difference here is your gross margins or gross profits as well. So first off, in the first quarter, you got 39 millions in gross profit. Second, 45 and 49. So you're seeing an increase in revenue, but the margins itself as a percentage isn't increasing as much as you would anticipate. Now, the margins went from 22 to 18 to 20%, but still adjusted EBITDA is only around 10 million. Now, in terms of the quarterly revenues, first off, we got the quarter 1 2021A actual. We're seeing here, this is labeled as the first quarter after US reset, and they put quarter 3 and 4 as the Canadian reset here. Now, you see a bit of a drop there in terms of the Canadian revenues, and it's not mentioned here, but basically you're going on from around a bigger chunk of Canadian revenues. Quarter 4 drops. Quarter 1, 2, and 3 start seeing a bit of an increase still again with the US revenues. Still nice incline, but the biggest metrics that we got to be very careful here is their adjusted EBITDA isn't growing with the same ratios. Now, the average monthly paying customers or clients are actually increasing. All the metrics does look good. Now, other business products and operation highlights includes continued to drive improvements in the Weedmaps user experience by increasing the accuracy of menus and product information across the marketplace and surfacing deals and promotions. They also enabled online order ahead functionality on their Apple apps and launched their second annual Best of Weedmaps marketing program heading. They also drove a wider availability of menu and orders integration to ensure menu setups and order and WM store enablement so that our client could easily convert user traffic to transactions. They also expanded our cost per click or CPC pricing test in additional markets to enable more performance-based buying options for our clients. On a side note, they invested ahead of the key East Coast state opening like New Jersey and New York with with on-the-ground efforts through our social equity workshops and with local cannabis association, and also seeded awareness of the Weedmap brands through efforts like Kevin Durant partnership that they announced previously. Now, moving on from there, let's take a quick look into their total assets and liabilities. So currently they have a lot more assets, but so is with the liabilities in general. They increased from 54 million to 363 million in assets, but total liabilities also increased between 25 to 315 million. So that's a massive jump. Now, total liability and equity also seen that massive increase as been total assets. It should reflect the same. But overall, the total equity has also somewhat close to doubled. I'd say 50% more, not doubled. Now, the biggest issue here is a bit of the cash flow previously. Now, what we see here in September 2021, the net cash from operations is actually positive, 25 million. Net cash from investing activity is negative 23 million. So cash at the end of the period is 78 million, but the net cash from financing activity is 56 million. So net change in cash was around 58 million. So they are presenting positive cash flow. Now, the biggest reason why it dropped was mainly towards the outlook falling short. So even though revenues rose around 9%, around $51 million in the third quarter, after what has been a sluggish year for the cannabis industry, the software provider to the weed stakeholder grew in the monthly active users by 1.6 million during the quarter, close to around 13.9 million. The company defines MAUs as the number of unique users opening its Weedmap mobile apps or accessing its website. The average monthly revenue per paying client rose around 7%, and profits per share was around 2 cents. That was half of what the analysts expected. So the company now expects its current quarter revenue to be 51 million at the center of the range, same as what was delivered in July through September's. At the top end, too, the target is now much higher, 52 million. So is this an overreaction? Well, if you were to take a look at the price actions generally, it was trading sideways. And analysts gave us some recommendations ahead of time where it anticipated at least 4 cents per share in terms of revenue. And what happened was it actually fell short of that, of the profits per share. And that got institutional buyers to feel a little bit shaky here. You're able to see a bit of red, at least some bigger names. But what we've seen before, even on the 12th, some bigger names actually added massive amounts, like Vanguard. They added around 2.8 million shares. You got Wolverine adding around 30 million shares. Granite Point adding 75. BlackRock on the 9th adding 650,000 shares. And we're seeing a massive increase. Federal Herms, not 4 million shares. Some people have, or some institutions have liquidated on the 15th today, like Hart Financial and Civic Group and Matatic Hill and former LLC. But the majority that we're seeing is a bit more buying by bigger names than actually selling. Heartland Capital actually added around 112.5% additional more shares. So all in all, it does still look very interesting, and let's dive quickly towards the fundamentals to understand if this is an actual overreaction or the price is actually undervalued. But before doing so, if you'd like to see more contents like this, make sure to click the subscribe button and leave notifications on, and dropping a like to this video. If you would like to join us on our chat room, it's in the description below, totally free. Now, from the fundamentals here, you're able to see that the price over sales is 13.69. So that's based on a yearly perspective on last year. So I would say this is more around 4 times more value than the market average itself for the weed industry. For instance, let's take a look at one of the other competitors. It works a little bit different, but it's also in the cannabis industry. Price over sales is 51.85. So it is not a good example to compare it with. But for instance, something like Hexo, you're seeing a 3.72 here and a 0.47 price over book. So it is more overvalued than Hexo, but less valued or less overvalued or undervalued compared to SNDL. So it's somewhere between SNDL and Hexo in terms of valuations, fundamentals. Now the volume is actually going on towards the negative side, and that's a bit of a dangerous thing. Short interest as a percentage of float is only 65% or 6.5%, my bad. So it's not that massive. And we're comparing short interest as per day. We're only seeing around 750,000 shares available for short selling at the current time at 2.77%. So the total shares percentage isn't that much when comparing into just other stocks. It's pretty much somewhere on the usual. So the quantities as well for things like the volumes percentage that is going towards the short volume is sitting somewhere around 58% on the last trading day. Before that, it was around 30. So there is a bit of an increase, but not significant enough to draw this down. Let's discuss a bit more on technical analysis. Now, from a technical analysis perspective, there are a few things. Of course, from the technical indicators, it's starting to look like a very bearish trend. Sitting at 27.76, suggesting that this is, it has a potential of a strong trend, but this is just a trend at this point, a negative trend. The stock is highly oversold, and that's understanding, given the willing percent R, which is very similar, by the way, to the RSI or relative strength index. MACD here, what we're seeing is that it's actually going on in a declining reversal, a negative reversal. It's a very strong one that is as well. And momentum is one of the worst I've seen in terms of a negative momentum for the stock. the last time it's been this bad, it was probably back on the 23rd of July. And that was just more of a negative momentum in general for a stock, and it wasn't a sharp incline. So it's definitely seeing one of the worst drops in its history. Stochastic fast and stochastic slow suggest this might be a good time to buy. You gotta look where the support is. But the stock is expected to trade between 1440 and 986 based on the Bollinger Bands. There's definitely a lot of interest in the stock yesterday, but the volume of this trading is quite low. It's around 8 million. So it's definitely around a smaller cap kind of money being traded around in terms of a volume per volume day. And really, a lot of people have freaked out about the analyst recommendations or analyst forecast that has been missed. And we're going to take a look at the analyst recommendations in a second. First off, the Fibonacci retracements, we're seeing a resistance at 1193, 1390, 1550, 1709, and 1935, and a support at 875. Now, from a resistance perspective, we're seeing one at 934, 978, jumps quite a bit to 1146, going higher to 1209, and then 1275, 1362, going up to 1484, 1556, and then 1613. From an analyst recommendations perspective, this received a few price targets in the last 5 days. Majority of them are between $12 and $21. So the major part of them are all buy. It has a strong buy, 6 buys, 0 holds, 0 sells, with an average price target of around 1667, almost double the price target where it is. Even the lowest kind of iteration is around, or reiterated price target is around $12, still around $3 higher than what the price is right now. So is this really undervalued? Well, in terms of comparing it to something like SNDL, yes, this is really undervalued. But when comparing it to something like the market average, it's overvalued a little. Weed stocks tend to be that way. And in terms of comparing it towards things like Hexo, it is more overvalued than Hexo. So Hexo is actually undervalued, so it's a little bit unfair to go through that, but you're able to see that the analyst missing of that, it still didn't matter as much, that they've beat their revenues, they are actually proceeding with growth. But because the analyst recommendations didn't fall within the outline of what the revenue was, it really dropped and suffered. So my anticipation is this is going to drop a little bit more, probably accumulate around 9 to 850, and then it's going to have similar movements that you've seen here. Hopefully with good news and beating analyst expectations in the future, it would rebound up, but this is a smaller cap stock and the risk is higher here. What do you think is going to happen here? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and have a wonderful day. Now, if you're still here on this video, make sure to drop down below and join our Discord. We have a lot of different things going on, including, for instance, members that gives picks for free. It's not pump and dumps, we just things we think about, swings, etc. We also have really exciting bots. You can actually use those ones. For instance, we're just testing out this bot, for instance, that gives you Fibonacci resistance points, activities, etc. And we have a bunch of free things, totally free. We run on tips here, and you can ask me questions, suggest stocks, etc. It's a really nice community that has been growing up very fast at a very good rate, and it's totally free. If you would like to join that one, feel free to do so in the description below, and have a wonderful day.